Hi, my name is Shelly, and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl and Her Healing podcast. Today's episode is titled, Come With Me. Healing is this way. And if you found your way to this space, it's not by accident. I want you to know that this episode isn't about having it all figured out. It's about taking one honest step forward towards healing. So, my love, wherever you are, however you're feeling, just meet me here. And know that you found your way here because something in you is tired of carrying everything alone. Something in you is ready to stop pretending you're fine. Something in you knows there has to be more than just surviving. You see, this isn't a podcast about fixing you because you're not broken. This is a space for the truth, for the mess, for the parts of you had to hide just to make it through. Here, we talk about the wounds, the grief, the faith that shook you to the core. We talk about the moments that shaped you and the slow, sometimes painful process of finding your way back to yourself. So, my love, if you're exhausted, stay. If you're hurting, please stay. If you don't have the words but your heart feels heavy, I encourage you to stay and walk with me. You don't have to know where this road leads. You just have to be willing to take the next step. Come with me. Healing is this way. Before I get too deep, I want you to know something that saved me. It was the moment I realized that I don't have to heal alone. I don't have to heal perfectly. I just have to begin. Yes, healing is a very messy process. It's loud and quiet at the same time. It's crying in your car in the grocery store parking lot, then getting out and walking into the store like nothing happened. It's saying, I'm fine, when your heart is literally breaking. It's wearing a smile when you're screaming inside. My love, I want you to come with me on this journey of healing. Let's walk together because there's a path. Your path. And it's been waiting on you to take one step, no matter how scary that step may seem. And to be completely honest, you really don't need confidence for that step. You just need to have the courage. You just need a yes. So I ask that you give me this moment to talk to the version of you that's overwhelmed and straight up tired. Let me have a deep and honest conversation with the version of you that is burnt out from emotional exhaustion. The version of you that's been holding on by a thread. My love, I promise I'm not here to impress you with some polished, sugar-coated, perfect speech or surface-level conversation. I'm here to talk to the you that shows up when nobody's watching. The you who cries in the shower, wipes your face, and walk out like something didn't just broke inside of you. The you who's been carrying the weight of healing alone, silently, like it's your punishment instead of your path. I'm telling that version of you to come with me. Healing is this way. Believe me, we're not walking down the path of fake healing or the love and light, everything is beautiful type healing. I'm talking about the kind that splits you open and rebuilds you from the inside out. Because the truth is, my love, for you to truly heal, you have to begin by being honest with the parts of you you've been running from. Real healing requires truth, and sometimes it's the type of truth we're not willing to face because it hurts too much, so we keep moving while avoiding or covering up the pain. Real healing asks for the nights you pretend you're untouched, even though your soul is battered and bruised. Real healing will absolutely, without a doubt, drag the truth out of the shadows. It brings every bruised feeling to the surface. It makes you face the parts of yourself you try to outgrow, the parts you try to outrun or outpray. The parts you try to just cover with a band-aid, not expecting it to get infected when left unattended. And I know that scares you, and that's okay. You see, I know the idea of opening up yourself again feels like walking barefoot across broken memories. It's like walking through fire. But this is where the shift begins. It begins right where it hurt. Right where it scares you. It begins right where you've been avoiding your own reflection, your own authenticity. My love, I've created the space for you to step with me. Safely. Slowly. Honestly. Even if your voice shakes and your heart hurts. This is where your becoming begins. And trust me, right here, in this very moment, whether you believe it or not, you're already doing the work. Healing shows up not when you think you're ready, but right in the middle of the chaos you're still trying to make sense of. Healing shows up in the sigh you didn't know you were holding. In the moment you finally admit, even if only to yourself, that something has to change. Healing will present itself in the split second you choose honesty over hiding, even though hiding feels safer or familiar. Healing starts in the parts of you that feels unfinished, unprotected, and undone. It rises in the small choices you don't think matter. Healing begins in the steady breaths you take. Healing, my love, is facing the truth about yourself without running from it. It's literally sitting in the mess of your heart and refusing to pretend that it doesn't hurt. Healing begins when you are done running, when you're no longer afraid to face the parts of you that you've been avoiding because facing them hurts too much. Healing is crying over things you thought you were over. Healing is feeling anger you were never allowed to feel. Healing is setting boundaries that make other people uncomfortable. Healing is doing the exact opposite of what your trauma taught you to do. Your trauma said, stay quiet. Healing says, speak up. Your trauma said, shrink yourself. Healing says, take up space. Your trauma said, don't trust anyone. Healing says, trust you first. Your trauma said, you're hard to love. Healing says, you are worthy right now, not later. My love, when you begin to heal, you won't feel it at first. You won't notice the shift as it's happening. You'll just wake up one day and realize you're not breaking the same way you used to. You will notice that you don't crash out over certain situations because you're not carrying the weight the same way you did. That's healing. The quiet strength forming under the surface. The courage you didn't know you had. The resilience you build while you thought you were failing. And this, you being here, listening to this conversation, breathing through this moment, this, my love, this is proof you haven't given up on yourself. This is the beginning of you choosing life again, choosing truth again, choosing you again. But here's the raw truth. Before healing can begin or even show up, you have to turn towards the wounds, not run away from it. You have to be willing to confront the pain that came from the wounds and let the healing begin right where it hurt the most. Let me tell you the truth about pain that no one talks about. Okay? Let's sit and have a conversation about it. Understand this. Pain doesn't destroy you. Avoiding the pain does. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you've been stabbed emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and instead of cleaning the wound, you just cover it with a band-aid and keep moving. That's what most of us do with our pain. We keep functioning with emotional infections. We think ignoring the pain is strength. We often think that numbing the pain is survival. But healing doesn't happen when you ignore the pain. It doesn't happen when you put a band-aid on it and call it healing or call it healed. It happens in the turning. And that's the moment when you start turning towards the hurt. And by turning towards the memory you keep skipping, turning towards the truth you pretend isn't there. Because running from what hurt you will keep the wound open. And the more you ignore it, the more painful it becomes. But when you turn toward it in a slow, gentle, and honest way, that's where God meets you. Right there in the rawest, most unedited version of yourself. Not where you pretend to be. You see, some of us have been fighting battles nobody clapped for. We've been carrying grief so heavy we forgot what it feels like to breathe for ourselves. And I know all too well how scary and heavy it can be. Sometimes it feels like if you ever allow yourself to feel everything, you might break, you might shatter. But sometimes breaking is the beginning of rebuilding. Sometimes what God wants to heal in you, He first has to reveal in you. And that's the breaking point that no one talks about. The point where it feels like your whole life is being ripped open on purpose. You know, that band-aid you put on that pain? Imagine it being ripped off without warning. I know it feels like you're being dragged through a situation you never asked for. Almost like God is pulling up the floorboards you've nailed down years ago. Like He's saying, no, not this time. We're not hiding anymore. But pain is often the doorway to the parts of yourself you've abandoned. And yes, it can feel so unfair. Trust me, I know. It feels like you're being dragged into rooms you don't want to walk into because it reminds you of the relationships that broke you or the friendships that betrayed you. Rooms you've locked, you've boarded up and prayed nobody would ever open again because opening them would mean you have to face the stench of the pain you've covered with that band-aid. But in those rooms, my love, that's where the real healing lives. That's where the old wounds, the buried truths, the forgotten version of you are still sitting in the dark, waiting for you to finally come back to them. You see, one of the biggest truths I learned about pain is that it's a teacher disguised as a threat. It shows up loud, super sharp, and unwanted. But underneath the sting is a message you've been avoiding. Listen, pain doesn't come to punish you, but to rebuild you. It comes to point you towards the places you still need love. It exposes what you've ignored. It reveals the wounds you've been managing instead of truly healing from. It shows you where you gave too much, where you silenced yourself, where you carried what was never yours to hold. We all know you can't rebuild what you won't face. Point blank, period. You can't release what you won't acknowledge. There's no such thing. You can't heal what you're still pretending doesn't hurt. And when you acknowledge the pain, even for a moment, you start to notice things. You start to see how long you've been surviving on emotional autopilot. You start to understand why your heart reacts the way it does. You start to feel the weight you've been carrying without knowing how heavy it really was. And that's where God steps in, my love. Not when you're pretending you're fine. Not when you're performing strength you don't feel. God steps in when you're honest. He steps in when you're raw and open. When your knees hit the floor and you finally say, I can't carry this by myself. That's when the rebuilding starts. It starts slow, real, deep, from the inside out. This is where your heart starts to learn a new language. This is where your soul starts remembering who you were before the wounds. This is where your spirit starts rising in ways you forgot you were capable of. This is the part of healing that changes everything. My love, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. So let's be real for a second. Pain has been trying to get your attention for a long time. It's been knocking, banging, kicking at the door of your soul, saying, hey, you can't keep living like this. But you kept pushing it down. You kept covering it up, pretending it doesn't matter. You see, pain is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also honest, and it refuses to let you lie to yourself. And trust that somewhere in that honesty, you begin to see the outline of who you're becoming. The version of you that isn't ruled by what hurt anymore. The version of you that chooses truth over pretending or performing. The version of you that stops shrinking just to make room for others. Listen, when I tell you pain will call you out without hesitation, it'll look you dead in the face and say, tell the truth. Tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Tell the truth you've been swallowing for years. And yeah, it will sting. It will make your chest feel tight. And that's a fact. It will drag old memories back up like they never left. But that's the point. Pain isn't here to break you, but to break the illusion you built just to make it through. The illusion that you're okay when you're not. The illusion that you have to do this alone. The illusion that strength means silence. The illusion that healing is for other people, not you. Pain strips all that away. Pain says, stop with the masks, the filters. Stop faking strength. Let's deal with what's real instead of hiding or running from what hurt you. And this is the moment that changes everything. This is the moment where you stop running from yourself. The moment where you admit what you feel instead of stuffing it down or pushing it out. This is the moment where the old you starts cracking open so the new you can finally breathe. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your wake-up call. Pain is the part of your journey that forces you to rise whether you feel ready or not. And right here, right now, you're answering that call without even realizing it. You're stepping toward the life that actually fits you. You're stepping out of the version of you that was built out of fear. You're stepping into the version of you that refuses to settle for suffering. This is where everything starts to shift. Pain pushes you to heal. My love, come with me. Healing is this way. Let me tell you something you may not hear enough. It's okay to fall apart on your way to wholeness. It's okay to break. Yeah, it's okay to say, I'm tired of being the strong one. It's okay to admit that the things that happened to you still hurt. There's nothing weak about your softness. There is nothing shameful about your sensitivity. There's nothing embarrassing about needing help, needing rest, needing God. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is to admit that you were wounded in the first place. Because the moment you admit it, you stop carrying it alone. So if you're shaken, if your voice is cracking, if your heart feels like it's unraveling, you're not failing, my love. I need you to know this from someone who's lived it. I didn't get here by being unbreakable. I got here because I broke more than once. I broke as a child who didn't understand why the world felt so heavy too early. I broke in the moments when I had to grow up faster than my heart was ready for. I broke when people I needed the most didn't show up the way I hoped they would. I broke when I learned to swallow my feelings just to survive another day. I broke in the moments of betrayal when the one who were supposed to protect me didn't. You see, I remember standing in the middle of my own life, feeling so small, feeling forgotten, feeling like nobody saw the tears I cried in silence. I remember holding pain I was too young to name. I remember learning to be strong because I didn't feel like I had any other choice. You see, my love, those breakdowns didn't make me weak. They made me honest. They made me face the wounds I tried so hard to ignore. They made me realize that pretending wasn't saving me. It was hurting me. It made me realize that covering my wound with a band-aid won't help me heal. And maybe that's why I can tell you this so boldly. You're allowed to crack. A matter of fact, you're allowed to shatter. You are allowed to revisit the version of you who didn't get what they needed. Because I had to do the same. I had to go back to the little girl in me who was carrying pain with no place to put it. I had to sit with her, listen to her, let her cry without rushing her healing. I had to stop abandoning her just because life taught me to be strong. I had to show her the love she never received and the protection she was never given. And every time I broke open, every time I stopped pretending, every time I let the truth rise instead of forcing myself to be fine, I got lighter. Things got clearer, and I got closer to myself because I realized that breaking wasn't the end. Breaking was the doorway. And that's what I want you to understand. Your unraveling is not your downfall. It's your beginning. And every opening is an invitation for light to enter. And I wish I could tell you that my openings came from easy moments, but they didn't. They came from the places that almost broke me forever. You see, my love, I had to walk through the breakdown of being rejected when all I ever wanted was to be chosen. I had to sit with the sting of abandonment, the kind that makes you question your own worth, the kind that teaches you to expect people to leave before they ever truly arrive. I had to face the memories of abuse I tried to pretend didn't change me, even though it did. It shaped the way I loved. It shaped the way I trusted. It shaped the way I learned to protect myself, even when protection looked like shutting down. See, those weren't soft breakdowns for me. Those were the kind that hit your chest so hard you forget how to breathe. The kind where you realize you've been carrying pain that was never your responsibility to hold. The kind where you finally admit, this hurt me more than I ever allowed myself to say out loud. And I had to let myself feel it. I had to let myself stop pretending it didn't matter. Because the pain of rejection, it left cracks in places I didn't know exist. The pain of abandonment, it taught me to make homes out of people who never intended to stay. And you see that pain of abuse? It stole pieces of my innocence and replaced them with silence. And I had to break before I could ever begin healing any of that. I had to grieve the part of me that were wounded in ways I couldn't explain as a child. I had to go back to the version of me who was left alone with feelings she didn't understand. I had to honor the tears I swallowed because I was taught to be strong instead of safe. Those breakdowns weren't mistakes. They were truth. They were the body saying, no more. They were the soul saying, the pain deserves to be heard. They were God saying, I will not let you bury this any deeper. And even though those moments felt like ending, they were the beginning of everything real in me, the beginning of clarity, the beginning of honesty, the beginning of freedom. And that's why I can sit here now and tell you, breaking is not your failure, my love. Breaking is your release. It is the point where the old pain loses its power. Every breakdown I survived became proof that light still wants me, and it still wants you too. I thought pain was part of my identity, but healing taught me how to shine again. Now, let's talk about the part nobody prepares you for. And that's the slow walk back to yourself. Because, my love, when I tell you healing is slow, it is slow. It is annoyingly slow, painfully slow. Healing is making the same mistake again and forgiving yourself again and again and again, as many times as you need. Healing is catching yourself repeating old patterns and choosing differently next time. Healing is learning to hear your own voice without confusing it with the voices of people who hurt you. Healing is practice. It's a process. It's patience. And every tiny shift you make counts. When you rest instead of overwork, that's healing. When you say no and mean it, that's healing. When you honor your feelings instead of hiding them, yep, that's healing. When you don't abandon yourself just to keep someone else, yep, you guessed right, that's healing. Listen, you're not going backwards. You're not stuck. You're not failing. You are walking back to yourself, one breath at a time, one boundary at a time, one honest moment at a time. And let me add this, because this is the part I had to learn the hard way. You see, there were seasons when my own walk back to myself felt impossible. Seasons when rejection bruised me so deeply I didn't know if I'd ever trust my own worth again. Seasons when abandonment hollowed me out in ways I didn't even have language for. Seasons when the abuse I survived followed me like a shadow, whispering lies in every quiet moment. Look, I didn't wake up healed. I didn't rise strong. I crawled slowly, painfully, through memories that felt too heavy to touch. I cried through nights that felt endless. I broke down more times than I can count, not because I'm weak, but because I was finally facing everything I spent years trying to outrun. And even then, even in the shaking, even in the unraveling, something in me refused to disappear. Every tear I cried was a step. Every truth I finally admitted was a step. Every time I chose myself, even when it hurt, was a step. That slow walk back to myself was not pretty. It was not graceful. It was survival, learning how to become healing. And if you're in that slow walk too, you're not behind. You're rebuilding. You're remembering who you were before life taught you to doubt your own heart. So keep walking, my love. Even slowly, especially slowly, because your soul knows the way home. And here's what I wish someone told me when I began my own walk. My walk back to myself started long before I ever knew what healing was. It started in the moments when rejection made me question if I was wanted. In the moments when abandonment left me sitting with an ache I didn't know how to name. In the moments when the abuse I endured taught me to shrink, to quiet myself, to disappear just to survive. You see, I didn't know I was losing pieces of myself each time I pretended it didn't hurt. Each time I told myself, I'm fine. Each time I learned to carry what should have broken me alone. There were years when I thought strength meant silence. Years when I thought keeping the peace meant keeping myself hidden. Years when I learned to hold in the tears, the fear, the confusion, because there was no safe place to put them. And when I finally broke down, it wasn't graceful at all. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't spiritual. It was messy. It was so loud. It was me collapsing under the weight of everything I had been holding since childhood. The rejection I never healed from came back. The abandonment I pretend didn't shape me came back. The abuse I tried to outrun came back. All of it. Every scar, every wound, every memory demanded to be felt. There were nights I cried without knowing what part of me was crying. Nights where my body remembered things my mind tried to forget. Nights where I felt like healing was just another word for breaking over and over again. But every time I broke, something inside me whispered, "Don't stop. Keep going." Not because I was strong, but because there was a part of me that refused to die in the same place I was wounded. And from that point on, the walk back to myself began. Slow, shaky, trembling, but real. Some days I took a step. Some days I slid backwards. Some days I stood still because my heart was too heavy to move. But even still, I kept turning towards myself. I kept trying to listen to the girl I used to be, the girl who survived what she never should have faced, the girl who was waiting for me to come back to her. And the walk didn't get faster, but I got steadier. I got softer. I got braver. Because returning to yourself after trauma is not a sprint. It's not a transformation montage. It's a long, quiet, sacred journey of unlearning everything pain taught you about who you are. And if your walk feels slow, if it feels like you're crawling, if it feels like you're taking forever to come back to yourself, you're doing it right. Because healing isn't loud. It isn't quick. It's the slow rebuilding of a self you never should have to lose. It's the long exhale after years of holding your breath. It's the tender forgiveness you give to the part of you that had no choice but to survive. My love, I'm here to tell you, keep going, even when it's slow, especially when it's slow, because every step you take towards truth, toward softness, toward honesty, toward yourself is a miracle. And one day, without even noticing, you'll look at your reflection and realize you came back home. My love, healing is not just emotional. It's spiritual. Your spirit has been carrying things your mouth never said. Your body has been holding stories your heart never processed. Your soul has been whispering for help long before you admitted you needed it. Sometimes healing looks like prayer. It looks like sitting in silence, surrendering what you can't control. Sometimes it looks like letting God into places you've been hiding from Him. There's no healing without the divine, because God meets you in the places where you finally stop pretending you're okay. And when you let Him, He rebuilds you in ways you didn't know were possible. My love, I want you to ask yourself something. What if today, right now, in this moment, you choose you? Not halfway, not conditionally, not, I'll choose myself when I'm better. No. Choose yourself as you are, with the scars, with the mistakes, with the fears, with the unfinished healing, with the trembling hands and hopeful heart. You deserve the kind of love you kept trying to give everyone else. Choose you, honor you, forgive you, show up for you. Healing begins with one decision. I'm not abandoning myself anymore. My love, before I go, I need you to hear this. You are not too broken to heal. You are not too late to begin. And you are not unworthy of the softness and peace you crave. There is a softer you, a more gentle, wiser, grounded you on the other side. You might not see it yet. You might not even feel it yet, but you're becoming them slowly, quietly, faithfully. And you don't have to walk alone, my love. Walk with me. Healing is this way. My love, thank you for giving me this moment to walk with you, to talk to the parts of you that is just tired. I want you to know this. You don't have to heal alone. I am here and we'll walk this together. Thank you so much for listening to my heart today. I love you so much, and I will catch you on the next episode.